And you're very welcome along to another edition of Tipp Cast with myself, Shane Brophy, sports editor of the Nina Guardian, joined once again by Gary Toohey of Clubber TV. Gary, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Shane. Yeah, busy few weeks there. First really cold snap popping in. Really felt it inside New Isle yesterday for the Harty Cup. So, looking forward to catching up on the few bits in the last couple of weeks.
We had between work and holidays and everything, we haven't had a Tipcast in a while, so we have a lot to catch up on. I suppose we'll start with the most immediate stuff. Gary, was the Harty Cup yesterday. I suppose encouragingly, 3 Tipperary schools into the last 8. Nina and Turles will be top seeds, and I would say maybe with Flannan's, they're the 3 clear favourites at the moment. And then Our Lady's Templemore got through as a group runner-up, and because they can't play the winner of their own group, there's a 66% chance they'll draw either Nina or Turles in a quarter final in the new year, which would be cracking stuff. But look, you commentated on the Tip Derby yesterday between Nina and Cashel, and comprehensive for Nina. And Nina went chasing a score because they were assuming if Flannan's beat Artskull Reach, which they did, it would go to a score difference to see who won the group. So I suppose unfortunately for Cashel, Nina had to run up a score, but I think that's it. To see that Nina were so focused on what they did and ruthless, like 7-18, like that just shows you the scoring power to have.
Yeah, you take yesterday's team, Joe Dwyer wasn't even talked out yesterday, and Luke McCaw was missing from Ballina as well. So, I keep saying, Todd Dunnock have been lucky now to do the training in the games. It's just been lucky the way work has fallen and location. So, Billy O'Brien was the best player in the field yesterday. Considering the score 7-18, he really stood out. It's great to see him back fully fit.
Yeah.
He's a big, strong lad, really quick as well, but he's not really tall in stature. But by God, he can win his own aerial ball. It's unbelievable. He got 1-1 yesterday, and he set up 3 goals directly himself at a point as well. So,
he's a lad. He's a lad. Actually, he looks very hungry after a lot of time off. Like he's had I'm not sure it was an Achilles or a knee. He was out for a long time. Missed. Like he only came on for Nina Rogan a county final. I was thinking, God, if he was back a month earlier and they could spring him for 15 minutes, what he could have done. Like he's a real live wire, isn't he? And he's fresh and he's hungry, and like that's a dangerous that's a huge asset to any team. And lad, that's mad for road after being like a calf locked in for Christmas or locked in for the last couple of months.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to be elite. I think he has it all, and he's enough to go to the top level. He reminds me a bit like Sean Ryan at club level. Like Sean is just so far ahead of everyone else. Same kind of structure, size in him, and the same kind of style of hurling. But no, he really stood out yesterday. Austin Duff has been playing midfield this year for Nina. He's been absolutely incredible. Darren McGrath, our centre back, the full forward line. You Hackett, Ryan, and Billy O'Brien, and like Joe Dwyer still come into that team as well. And
they haven't put their first full team out. Like if Joe Dwyer gets in there, like Billy O'Brien has really only settled back in the last couple of games. Like if they get to the new year with their settled 15, especially in their forwards, like they're very, very strong. And of course, if they're in difficulty, they can always move Patrick Ryan back to the backs too if they needed to. They have options.
Oh, massive options, and we haven't even spoke about Owen Doughton. Like he got 2-7 yesterday, and it was actually a very quiet day for himself from play. Even though he got 2-1 from play, but he actually set up Par Ryan's goal at the very end of the game. But no, they have a proper squad this year, and I have a feeling they're going to need it because I've watched a hell of a lot of Harty Cup games this year, and for me, Turles are still just a small bit above Nina. I think Nina are a good bit ahead of Flannan's. I think that game in the first round of the championship where they were 10 points ahead, Doughton had to go off injured at half time. I think Nina subconsciously kind of fell in themselves and said, this game is over, but they didn't really realise how important Doughton was. I think Nina, if they had to meet Flannan's again, will have enough for them in a semi-final or a final. But no, it's great to see the 3 tip teams. Turles again, I was there for the second half of the game yesterday. They basically play, I won't say a second team, but kind of half second team. None of the under 20s were playing Ewan Murray and the rest of the boys, but they were still super impressive. But like Nina, they have a massive squad. Like they could put out with second team and probably competing to be Harty. Yeah. They're that strong. And then Templemore, delight for Templemore, probably against the odds yesterday, against the Closhimwera, Sean Oak's team coming up, and Sean Walsh got the goal after 21 or 22 minutes, and it really set them going. Massive crowd there from Templemore and Featherden as well. So, no, it's great to see 3 teams there. And look, on Cashel point of view, they just didn't have the bodies. You know yourself in school, sometimes you have years coming through. Cashel just don't have the years at the moment. It's still a very young team. I think there's only 4 or 5 of those boys over age again next year. So considering they did take a bit of a beating yesterday, Cashel should really hold their heads up high. They competed in the A this year. It could be an easy option, go back to the B. They stayed in the A, and look, that'll stand for that team next year.
And they're playing in the Kernavuri as well in Senior A football. Like, so I can't say they're not ambitious. They're not wanting to compete against the best. It's just, I did suspect that maybe Cashel probably felt themselves maybe they'd be under pressure this year. Probably didn't feel that they'd be as, I don't know, maybe uncompetitive as harsh, but like the score lines have been, maybe the first game they were competitive, with the last two, it's been tough going. Like, and I suppose we've got to mention Clonmel too, bowed out with another competitive performance yesterday against Coleman's or Fermoy, but look, they competed well, lost narrowly to De La Salle, lost, give Middleton a good game too. So like, very encouraging that I suppose that the high school in Clonmel are back in the top tier. Whether they'll be there next year is another thing, but I suppose it all depends on years. I know Tralee CBS are bursting to get into the Harty next year. I think they were a bit disappointed when I think the numbers were sort of restricted to 16 and didn't get in, but they're going very, very well at under 17 level, which is encouraging to see a Kerry school driving things on.
Yeah, but actually, just on the format as well, I know you had more to 21 and 23 than the last few years, and it gave more teams competition. But I think the way the structure is this year, the four groups of 4, it just makes a hell of a lot more difference. And every team's guaranteed 3 games, because there's one thing about GA, I absolutely hate these groups of 3, no matter what level it's at. I absolutely despise it. So no, it'd be great, Jay. It'd be great to see Tralee, a Kerry team, come up, because I remember being in Bursley years ago, and we won a Munster Championship, and we got to play it's a Derry team in 1 year, and then the following year we got to play an Antrim team. Do you know? So it's just great to see these other counties competing then as well. But just on the Nina game yesterday, look, granted, Nina were probably always going to win that game, but spoke with Dunnock after the game, and knowing you're going to win a game going into it, you know yourself subconsciously it can kick into you, and you can struggle in these games. And Nina did struggle really for the first 6-7 minutes. But after they got going, then we realised, right, the score difference is on. So between looking at the phone and keeping the score here, Flanagan started plus 23, Nina started plus 8. And by half time, Flanagan's were plus 25 and Nina were plus 24. So we had something to look forward to in the second half. And look, Nina won comfortable enough in the end. They finished the group on plus 39 and Flanagan's were plus 27. But no, it was a real ruthless edge from Nina yesterday. A real professional job done yesterday. And look, they could have had 12 or 13 goals.
Yeah, and I suppose the one thing I'm hoping for is that when the draw is made, that Thurles and Nina are kept on separate sides of the draw. We know they can't play in a quarter final, but that's not to say they couldn't meet in a semi. Like, if they could kept in the second set, if the separate sides of the drawing made the final, and you had a repeat of 3 years ago where you had 9,000 in Semple Stadium for the Harty final, Cash and Thurles. Like, I think you could have that again, but look, that's a long way down the road. Both teams have matches to win first, and I just was going to ask you, like, you've been how beneficial is playing on Astro for particularly Thurles and Nina? They look like teams give them a good fast track. I thought last year when Nina were unlucky when they bowed out, I think it was to De La Salle and Bancha on a sturdy day, a sticky pitch, and I just thought they were out muscled by a bigger team like that. And Astro, where the surface is perfect, okay, people like it or not like it, but it's a good surface that it sort of it plays to the strengths maybe of the likes of Nina and Thurles, who are good ball playing, stick playing teams.
Yeah, like I want to say it there about the Astro. The better teams will perform better on the Astro because you have the skillful hurlers. Once you have the wrist of the legs that look after everything. For me, Thurles are a more physical team than Nina. And that's not saying Nina aren't physical. They just are a bigger team. Simple as that. It's just genetics. But Nina yesterday, you could see, like, you can train all you want on Astro. I think you see it there when you play soccer, and I play it there with the club. And even when you go play a match in Astro, it's completely different. So consider Nina didn't have any training on it. It looked like they were so used to the 4G. You see Patrick Ryan there 7 or 8 times a game bouncing the ball like you would on a good hard ground during the summer to get back up to his paw. The passes were being bounced on the ground down along the sideline, and again, that's just first instinct. Cashel weren't doing that at all yesterday, and neither were doing. So it just, look, the better teams do perform on conditions like this. It's like a racehorse. A racehorse will perform. A good racehorse will perform on any ground. Neen and CVS really suited that yesterday. But look, it's grand this time of the year for round 3, Graham. I know there was a good bit in the line yesterday, a few games, and Federer was taking a couple of games as well. It's not ideal to have too many games on it, but look, when you come to the weather this time of year, you're not going to say no to a 4G pitch.
No, and it's a fair chance when the quarterfinals are played in the new year. I think that probably it's usually the second Wednesday of January is when the quarters are on. That it could be
and just
could
on
well
that,
be.
If they if the 4 quarters are played, like they should be all played on actual pitches.
Yeah,
to give everyone the fair advantage.
Yeah, like I say, when you have UL and you have Feathertown Park and you have Parky Keeve as well, like there are, and I suppose that's where probably long-term planning, and I suppose hopefully if things go to plan with the new Centre of Excellence in Thurles, there'll be another all-weather pitch there, like so. At Dr. Morris Park, something we might touch on later on in terms of the roundup of what's been going on. So, no, that was very encouraging. And I suppose not just the senior A, but looking down through the grades, Coláiste Duniski and Care, they're true in the B. Abbey CBS are true in the B. Borsicane are true in the C. Presentation Ballingarry are true as well. So, like, there's a lot of chip schools below the A grade doing well and have been doing it. And I suppose that's just another indication of, I suppose, the underage, as I'd say, the underage development in the academies. It's definitely filtering out, not just among the hearty schools, but definitely down through the rest of the schools as well.
Oh yeah, and like you can, like, the teams competing in the B and the C, like there's going to be 1 or 2 lads off each, at least off each team, whether you're competing in C or not. You're still getting a high level hurling. And look, it's not the hearty, but hurling in the B. I did a lot of hurling in the B when I was over in Bursley for 6 years, and the standard is absolutely incredible. Now it's a hell of a lot better now compared to the standard we had back in our day, because as you said there, with all these development squads going through, and you can see it there with Tipp in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And what's happening now, we won't see for another 3 or 4 years, probably coming up to the last year really under 20. So no, listen, Jays, I would take a school win a Munster C or an All-Ireland C over nothing at all, you know. So no, it's just great to see that at the moment. It's just a real, Jays, it's been 4 or 5 years now that's been a really good run of Tipp schools hurling, do you know. So whether it's A, B or C, Jays, long may it last. Yeah,
and like it's like when you have 5 at Tipp schools out of 16, I Tipp at the highest representation along with Cork, and like that's what you want. And like it's not the same 5 every year. You had Carrigadshore were in it last year, Clonmel in it this year. Who's to say the Abbey and Tiptown won't be in it next year? Or I'm just looking at maybe, I suppose they're the core ones, and maybe like say Mary's and Newport are maybe making a shove on the last few years, and I would say Coláiste Duniski and Care, like for them to be playing senior B hurling, like geez, I don't remember them playing that high up now in a long time. Coláiste were even in Thurles now. I know Paddy Stapleton's doing a good bit of work in there. Like they've improved their standard, and they're up to either a senior B as well. Like so, it's all feeding pretty well, and generally in most schools.
Oh, geez, it is, yeah. And like I'm just thinking there, like that Mile Rovers under 17 and 19 team, like like for South hurling, like especially Mile Rovers, like I'm sure they're throwing a hell of a lot of lads into the schools down there in the south as well. And no, it's as you said,
we won't forget St. Mary's before they won the under 19A, so we want to mention them.
Well, that was a given anyway. But what I was going to say with like the Mile Rovers and these clubs that I suppose haven't really been focusing on the hurling. In the last couple of years, I saw Mile Rovers twice this year, and I've been really impressed with them under 19. And that 19 team, the last count semi-final to Moneygall, I think 11 of that starting 15 was under 17.
Yeah.
So look, let them bring out their best potential, and it's only good for Tipp hurling all throughout.
Okay, sure. We'll mosey back a couple of days to Sunday. The Munster Club semi-final. Start with senior disappointment for Lockmore Castellini. Bowed out Errol Dennis 220 to 116 after extra time in 6 Mile Bridge. A real arm wrestle of a game. It was really teak stuff. That was very interesting comments from both managers, and more or less agreed that it was the toughest game of hurling their teams has ever been played, and it's hard, you couldn't disagree. Like it was, and I would say there wasn't another Tipperary team, my club team, I would have said would have been better prepared to play that game. Would have been a lot more. You said these boys will get down and dirty, and I just think maybe against them when it came to extra time, just maybe the fact that Éire Óg had a younger squad and a stronger bench, and I think a lot more might have had 10 lads over the age of 30, and then going into extra time, just maybe ran out a bit of steam.
Yeah, listen, it wasn't for the want anyway for Loughmore. And as you said, this year's preparation, absolutely perfect compared to last year, obviously involving the football as well. So no excuses from that point of view. And sometimes you just put your hands up and say, look, you're a bit by the better team on the day. Now, granted, they actually weren't, they drew normal time, but extra time, and I hate cliches, but it does take on a life of its own sometimes. Yeah. And it just, that goal the young fella got, number 9 there for Éire Óg, actually, there's Brian Callan, a good friend of mine, and his wife is that's actually his niece. So he actually texted me during it, and I actually missed it because I was too busy throwing cushions all around the place to try Parrots winning goals. So I had to go back and watch it. But no, listen, like, again, you can analyse this until the cows come home, but it literally just came down to 1 or 2 breaks in extra time, and that was it. You can say about the legs, and people keep saying about Loughmore and the legs, and they're going on for years and years, but I don't buy into that. Sometimes I just think, and it's not that Éire Óg Ennis wanted it more. I just think sometimes these things happen. It's simple as that. There's no Éire Óg weren't better, they weren't fitter. It was just they got a break or two, and that's just what happened.
Well, I think that it looked like they had a small bit more injury, but then I'd agree. Maybe, as you say, when they were getting the upper hand, you always find that a little bit more in the body. Like, and I did think the game was gone anyway by the time the goal came late on an extra time. Like, I suppose the one thing I thought was very Loughmore like in extra time, and whether that was out of desperation or it was fatigue, but I actually never saw them do it before, and maybe in the last 2 or 3 years, as the big boom and delivery from Aidan McGrath. Like, that wasn't them. Like, and whether that was pure fatigue and that there was no runners making the runs from to pop the pass like they, and like they got absolutely nothing off that long ball, like in extra time. And I thought that was a striking thing for me. That's completely unlike Loughmore.
Yeah, and there will be a couple of factors that I noticed that as well. Actually, said it to one of the lads. But like, I remember Upperchurch playing Carrick Swans, and Swans didn't get to play their game because Upperchurch had done their homework and they just crowded there in the middle third, so they couldn't play that running game. Éire Óg did something similar as well throughout the game. They look, Stevie Wonder knows what kind of game Loughmore play. You have to give credit to Éire Óg there in that sense. But between the conditions, Éire Óg having the homework done, and probably, you're more than likely correct with a small bit of fatigue. With those 3 factors coming in, like, Aidan had no choice but to go along. And I think the conditions as well, like that ground was fierce heavy on Sunday, and between the mist and the rain coming down, like we saw it in Clonmel as well the day before. You just have to give massive credit to Éire Óg. They had their homework done, and they probably were a small bit fresher. But you did make a good point about the bench. Look, Loughmore have been the best team in Tipp for the last decade or so. They probably are missing 1 or 2 probably starters on the bench to come off the bench, whereas Éire Óg probably have 17 or 18 starters. And that's probably what got them over the line. But again, it's tiny, small margin. If that game was played again this weekend, I'd be back in Loughmore again, you know. But
I was actually thinking that the game being moved out of Ennis didn't help Loughmore.
Really? Okay.
I'm of the view that like the pitch in Ennis is, people always think it's the biggest playing surface in the country. It looks deceptively small on the screen, but it's wide. It is wide, and people might say, okay, Ennis, they're a sprightly young team, like that would have suited them. I think if you give Loughmore a bit more space, the hurling would have come into its own, and the surface in Ennis is always excellent as well. And look, we saw 6 Mile Bridge. Look, at short notice, after a camogie match being played on it earlier that day, I thought it held up particularly well. Like, so, at short notice with no water in Ennis, like 6 Mile Bridge was always going to get the game. And look, it went as well as possible. Look, I just think it's a small thing. I think definitely the surface, I think, and the fact that, look, Loughmore would have played in Ennis before against Éire Óg twice in football. They knew what they were walking into. Probably wouldn't have been as familiar with maybe 6 Mile Bridge, but it's only a small thing. Look, the better team won in terms of extra time, and Ennis go on to play Ballygunner in the final. Do you give Ennis a chance?
Do I give Ennis a chance? I gave Sarsfield a massive chance last weekend, and like they got a good run on Ballygunner at the end of the first half, and I think they actually won the second half actually in the end.
Yeah.
So it was just that slow start. So again, I give Ennis a right good chance, because just saw Shane O'Donnell's interview with Tommy Rooney after. There's something different about the way he spoke about the panel this year and the way they kind of more concentrate on hurling this year. And look, again, you wonder, everyone would know the type of game Ballygunner. If I was Ennis, I would just shut up shop for the first 5-10 minutes, completely kill the momentum, let them have no run at you whatsoever, and then just go for the juggler. Then I suppose later on in the first half, Ennis will have the legs on them. I think they're actually a faster team than Ballygunner. Ballygunner obviously better stickmen, but I would look nothing against Ballygunner. Jeez, I'd love to see Ennis win a Munster just to freshen things up a small bit. And look, it'd be nice for Shane O'Donnell as well to get a Munster club.
Absolutely, yeah. We had that, I suppose, unusual occurrence last weekend of the last two hurler of the years playing each other in a club championship match. And look, we can't maybe go and not mention John McGrath's performance, like 12 points, 5 from play. He'd probably look back in a game where he maybe missed a couple of frees. He'd usually got like that 10 wides in second half in normal time, like that, unlike Lockmore as well. Like, they had their chances to win it in normal time and not having to go to extra time. But look, these things happen. Like, what a year John has had. Like, we haven't had a show since the All-Stars. John, a hurler of the year, like just a cherry on top for what is an incredible turnaround for him. It was like this time last year, I'd say if I went back through some of these recordings, I would have been, I might have discussed it or I might not. I would have been concerned that maybe John was done and that maybe he wasn't going to be kept on. But geez, it was like the club form wasn't translating to inter-county, and I always thought it was just mental that he was putting an awful lot of pressure on himself when he put a blue and gold jersey on for the last few years, and that all he needed was one good game to get himself going. And when he got that game out of his belt, under his belt against Limerick, he just took off.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, massive credit to John. Like, I don't think he's changed too much about his game at all. And
no.
Again, and you know what? You can take a lot into it as well. The players around you, like the position that he plays, it's a specialized position. It's 14. And he stays there. Like, it's not like he roams around the half forward line, comes out to the middle third like Jake does or a couple of other guys. He's a specialised 14. He stays inside the square, inside the 21. So you need to be having your half forward line, your midfielders, your half back to be on song, giving you the right ball. Your corner forwards moving around, getting you space. And that probably hasn't been happening the last couple of years. And you see nearly every lad coming out in interview, and they had a chat with themselves over the winter, and they had to restore pride in the jersey. And that just probably all came from hard work, Shane.
Yeah.
So, like, for him to have such a good year, it accumulated around everyone playing well as well. So, just absolutely delighted for him, because look, you couldn't meet, and again, it's another cliche, you couldn't meet a nicer family in the McGraths. We Noel and John and Brian as well, and what Noel and John have done for the jersey, but for John, from a personal point of view, especially last Sunday in those conditions, whenever about to freeze, he'll always get those 5 points in play. He's going to win Tip Club Hurler of the Year, probably more than likely this year. He's going to pick up more awards throughout the year, and rightly so. And he's still only.
It's just the ease that, like, he strokes over points from the sideline that look routine. Like, you did a comment, McDorrick in his commentary. I think it was one stage. What did he say? He said, "Was it a lad or something like that?" No, I don't think it was a lad. It was something like that. He just It's just with Noel and John. Like, we've just. The next few years, just cherish everything they're doing, because there's not many of their style of player coming through anymore.
No, and like you see Noel and John, like, even run into a ball. It doesn't look like they're running or sprinting. It just looks like they're just gliding. It's just like they're taking their time gliding. They're not, like, it's just the way their physique is. But like the way John plays and the way Noel's 35 now. Yeah. Look, but the position he plays, he could still do another two years, I think, with Tip, whether starting or coming off the bench.
Yeah.
I think even bring him off the bench for 10 minutes at the end, just to shore things up as an extra centre back or a third man midfielder. John could definitely do another 3 or 4 years in full forward, again, starting or coming off the bench. But no, it's just effortless. And I always thought of John as just not lazy, but the way he runs, it doesn't look like he's sprinting. But I was lucky enough to do a lot more football games this year where he's actually playing midfield. Yeah. And by God, that man has a turn of pace. He has a turn of pace that you don't really get to see, because he doesn't need to do it really in the hurling.
He has a deceptive. He's a deceptive stride. Like it's a kind of a gliding stride rather than quick steps. Like he's, no, he's. I'm thrilled from his. I did think that his hurling hadn't dissipated over the last few years. It was just there was times I saw him going for balls, particularly high balls, and he wasn't winning them, and it wasn't like him. I said, this is a lad who the jersey was weighing on him because he knows it's just not gelling like it is for a lot more, and he just needed something positive. And I'd even go back to the first half of the National League game against Kilkenny when he had a really good first half that day, and I said, he just needed something positive in a Tipp jersey, because the last few times he'd been taken off or he'd been brought on too late, or of course the Achilles injury in 2022. He just needed a positive run, and he got it. And look, I'd say we won't see him or Noel in a Tipp jersey, I'd say, till March, I'd say, next year. They'll be wrapped in cotton wool. Go away, refresh. You've had a long campaign with Tipp and Lockmore. If you're ready to go more or less the first round of the Munster Championship next year, that's time enough.
Yeah, I'd say for any young boys or girls that want to see Noel and John get down to Fenner Park on December 8th, they'll probably tog out for a few minutes in that exhibition game against Limerick, all right. But yeah, rightly so. They probably shouldn't play any league matches until maybe the knockout stages. But just one thing there on John, a lot of forwards, and they get criticised for it. John is so deceptive under the high ball, where he just puts the hurley up and to tap it down to himself or another man coming on. And you see it so many times for Lockmore. But players at club level and county level, if they go up to do that and they miss the ball, the scrutiny they get from support and everything. But like, it's not out of laziness. It's not out of not wanting to go catch a ball. It's out of cuteness. They know exactly what they're doing. But John is the best in the business at doing that.
I'd say that's no doubt. It was probably coached for them through Pat. I'd say even that you just let the game come to you. Like a lot of I was very poor at hurling, and a lot of reasons I was poor is like I kind of panicked when I got near the ball, and that if you're panicking, you actually got to nearly slow down when you get on the ball, because you actually have more time than you realize you have, and just make the decisions quick. And like in terms of your point there about them flicking down the ball, like they've probably had a split second look around to see who's where. Do I have time to flick it down, or if I am going to flick it down, am I flicking it down to a teammate or to myself? That they're not doing it for the sake of it. They're doing it because it's been coached into them that you had that extra split second.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, they're not even looking around, because they know for a fact if John is flicking it down, Rucker McCormick is going to be there, or Kieran Connolly is going to be under rake, or Ed Connolly, they're going to be there for it anyway. So it's it's one of those little skills in the game that you don't see a lot, because nowadays it's all about possession and being a big hardy man, putting the hand up, trying catch and clean ball, and catching clean ball is great and everything. But sometimes that little flick where a man is coming onto the break of ball, it's just such a delight to watch. But listen, long live John McGrath, long live the McGraths, and I'm looking forward to their statues in Castellini in a couple of years' time.
Absolutely. And before we move off to McGrath's, we congratulate Mairead Evanston on her Camogie All-Star last weekend. Totally deserved. She had a brilliant season. One of those things I can't stand with All-Stars is where they maneuver a player into another position. Like Mairead was a full-back, and she was an outstanding full-back this year, but she got chosen a wing-back. So, and I would have said maybe Caoimhe McCarthy would have been maybe Tipp's outstanding win back this year. Like, so look, it was great to win one, and hopefully they'll win a few more next year and have a big shove on under James Heffernan. I know he's announced a pretty strong backroom team for his Camogie setup next year. Tony Shelley's involved as a coach. Like, he's been around the beat a long time. So, like, you think Caoimhe Staklam will be coming. Caoimhe Staklam coming into that forward line next year. I know she'll only be turning 19, but by God, she's some player that's coming through.
She's going to be elite, chain, and the Munster Club semi-final. Look, I know Granton Sarsfield.
That was some game. That was some game across the codes that De La Salle Thurles Sarsfield match, and I just think a bit of experience probably came against Thurles in the second half, and like Beth Carton, I'd say pound for pound is the best Camogie player in the country. Like,
there's no argument about it.
She's unreal.
She compete, like she'd walk into every single team in the country, simple as that. But that game as a whole, you're dead right. We were inside in the stadium. What was that, a Saturday or Sunday? I think it was
Saturday lunchtime.
That was what day? It was
county final day,
County football final day, and we were up in the gantry, and I'd say there were 7 or 8 of us with phones out watching that game. The first half exceptional, second half even better. But no, Quiva Stakem stood out like a sore thumb. She was unbelievable, and she's so young as well. And Tip really haven't had probably such a skillful, wristy kind of corner forward like her in a long time. So with herself and Grace O'Brien in the 2 corners next year, like you're looking at a lethal forward line. But again, massive congrats to Mairead Evson. She's been a Rolls Royce there for Tip in the last 5-6 years, and fingers crossed now we have 1 or 2 more next year.
Absolutely. We'll stay with Munster Club. We'll come intermediate hurling. Congrats up Sherstrand Band there into a Munster final. They beat Ballinhassig 2-14 to 17 points. Look, I would say if you're beating a Cork club in any provincial hurling championship, it's a fair statement. And like for Thurles Upper Church to win, and they won it like they've won a lot of all their games this year. They've won it on hard work. They won it on a tight back line that doesn't concede goals, and they did that again. And I suppose I think they're definitely a team rather than they're definitely a team. Like no player stands out, but we haven't got the full breakdown of the new Tip faces this year. But I'd be surprised if Keith Ryan is not one of them. I thought he was powerful on Sunday for Upper Church. And look, he's played private. I think he played. Did he play inter-county football? He might have done for a year or two, but his size, he's tall, he's leadership, he's young. I think he's only 23, but he's a captain. Like I just thought he was powerful on Sunday.
Yeah, he's actually in my team of the year that I put in for yourself there a few weeks ago.
Same as myself, yeah.
No, and it isn't just this year. Like he's probably been at a 7.5 and 8 literally for the last 3 or 4 years, and to be at that level, because you go out most days, you're either an 8 or you're a 5 or a 6. There's no between, but he's been so consistent. But Jesus, he was class last weekend. And for, as you say, a young lad like 23, 24, are still very young when you're competing at this level. But you made a good point there. Obviously, Tip clubs have a brutal record in the Munster club in the last decade, even longer at all grades. So to get a win over the Cork champions is absolutely massive. And to be honest,
like their teams have dominated this grade. So like it's a kind of a. If you're beating them at that level, it's a big step towards maybe going winning. That's not, look, they'll have a tough final against O'Callaghan's Mills now on Saturday week. But look, if you can beat a Cork team, you're good enough to go and win the whole thing out, even get to Croke Park.
Oh, geez, exactly, yeah. And I think if they get over O'Callaghan Mills, they can really dream of getting to Croke Park. But and do you know what? To me, they're still a team. I'm still hard to figure out. I suppose like. They never, and they never put up a big massive score. They never kind of put on samba hurling, and there's never really dogged hurling. Something in between. To me, they're still very hard to figure out, but they just get the job done. Again, they won by 3 points the last day. They're usually up until the county final. They won every game by a point or two. And again, their defence kept another clean sheet. So
they kind of remind me of the Irish soccer team of the last couple of games. They kind of know what they're about. They're about keeping it tight at the back, don't concede big scores. Okay, we won't shoot the lights out to the other end, but we'll do enough. We'll get Paddy Phelan, we'll get Paddy Green, Paul Stapleton, not Paul Shanahan, Luke Shanahan, Pat Ryan, brilliant sideline cut at the end to wrap it up. They'll feel if we don't concede enough, we'll score enough at the other end.
Yeah, and you know what? The stats going into the county final, they had average scoring 21 points and conceding 17. They scored 20 last weekend and they conceded 17. So it's mad how these things actually level out all throughout the year. So again, if you can guarantee 20-21 points in a Munster final against O'Callaghan Mills, that's probably a job done from Upper Church, because it'd be very rare that streak will be broken. But no, listen, for Liam Dunphy, I've met Liam so many times over the last couple of years, been lucky enough with Clubber. He's a lovely man as well. And
so it was a big risk for him to go back to Upper Church now.
Yeah.
Like
after last year,
got to a county semi-final a couple of years ago. I know maybe there was issues with the dual thing, but like you always say, never go back. And like it just shows you that the players had great time and great respect for him. And there was always pressure that, okay, geez, people said if you didn't go back up the first year, it was going to be harder. I think there's always a 2-year window. If you're not gone back up within 2 years, you're kind of stuck. And this year was a big year and didn't start out the championship great, lost in the mid. Jesus, like the I say there were only a puck of there were one long range free going straight to the net against Ballina from being knocked out in the group stage, and now they're in a Munster final. Just mad how things have changed for them. Momentum is built for them.
Yeah, and like if you said to Liam Dunphy and the boys at Saturday year, you're going to lose to Mine Temple in the mid championship. No disrespect to Mine, they wouldn't be at the level of Upper Church, and then you scrape over Ballina, you scrape over Burgess, a weakened Burgess team that day as well.
With Moneygall, who were like only coming from intermediate for
And that day over in Dalla, I know they Jizz had 17 or 18 wides, but Moneygall probably should have won that game that day. Last minute free saved them. So if you said that to Liam Dunphy Saturday, they'd be laughing at you. There's no way they'd be in a Munster final. But again, momentum in sport is absolutely incredible. Winning every game by 1 or 2 points, you're building character, you're not going back training in weather like this, and you're still winning. Like I always say it, you mightn't be the fittest team or a couple lads carrying injuries or niggles like that, but when you're winning, all that goes to the back of your mind. It's all subconscious, and it's just the momentum they have at the moment. And Jesus, it'd be absolutely super for Tip Club hurling if they could win a Munster final. O'Callaghan Mills they're a decent outfit. I didn't get to see the game now, but they're a decent outfit. They've been thereabouts the last 4 or 5 years. But again, Upper Church had 9 different scorers in last weekend. They had 10 different scorers in the county final. There's a good spread there. Paddy Phelan loved his star man the semi-final. He only got a point in the county final, a point the last day. He dropped a bit deeper the last day. And for me, he's a proper midfielder, and I think he will develop to a proper midfielder in the long run. But no, I was delighted he got over the line. And yeah, that's in Saturday week now in Gaelic Grounds, and lucky enough we're doing it on Clubber. I'll be there myself doing it. So I'm fingers crossed I'll be interviewing Liam Dunphy and Keith Ryan after the game.
You have to start working on puns now. You have Jimmy the Mills and O'Callaghan. There's a pun there that you have to start working on for the next week.
We'll have to get the Jimmy the Mills family to present the man the match or something. Fingers crossed.
And if there is an O'Callaghan in the Mills, like in Kilkishen, isn't that? That's not the Mills, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, Kilkishen, yeah. So, but we look forward to that. Care knocked out in the Munster Junior semi-final by Kilrossenty. Now, I have a big bugbear in this, and I think Tipperary should pull out with a Munster Junior hurling until such time as our intermediate champions are allowed in, because we're not competitive in that. Like this year, we had Care who didn't even get to a county semi-final representing us. And I find this nonsense that we have teams playing for an All-Ireland junior and intermediate, but each province has their own guideline of who can enter. You look an awfully, a senior B team can play in the Leinster Intermediate Club Championship, but until Tipperary changed the wording of our senior B championship to Premier Intermediate, we couldn't compete, and it's the reason why we can't compete. We can't send Golden Kitfecal into the Munster Junior, because the word junior is not in our title. I just think it's an utter load of nonsense by the Munster Council, and I believe this for years, that I think Tip have no business in being a Munster Junior, because we just don't have competitive enough teams, and the likelihood going forward is that second teams are going to win this championship more often than not. We saw Holy Cross and Killadangan were in the final this year. Off and on, you probably will get a first team winning it, but it's going to be few and far between. Most of them are now in the top 48 clubs there is in the county. So, look, it's just something I had to get off my chest. I just think that it's so unfair that because the wording of it's called an intermediate championship. Do you stick? All it would take to change it is the word. Change our our intermediate championship. Call it the junior intermediate championship.
Yeah, or Premier Intermediate.
It's still the third grade. All you're doing is changing the name, and suddenly your team is allowed to enter.
Well, between that, I 100% back you on that. Yeah. It's either on social media, utter woke nonsense. Yeah. But the other,
that's the annoying thing is that Leinster have their own way, but they're all competing for the same prize essentially. Yeah. The senior B champions in Offaly which is the second grade in Offaly, are playing in the same competition as the second grade at Kilkenny, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
you're asking the fourth grade in Tipperary to take on the third grade in a lot of counties. Okay, Tipping, I know Cork's is, I think, about the fifth or the sixth grade, but like Cork have a lot of clubs, and they're always competitive, and they get the right grade. But like Tipperary at the moment, our junior champions in hurling are not good enough or competitive enough for the Munster Junior Championship, and haven't
No.
been for a couple of years.
100%, but I also don't agree, and whether you agree or not, I don't know. But the likes of like Nina and or Holy Cross and Killangen, Holy Cross Killangen that got to the final. Why I still don't understand this rule that club second teams can't go on to Munster.
Yeah,
For me,
I'm at the same view as well. I've always believed that
it's of no advantage. Like, this is a club second team,
Yeah.
so these 15 or 20 lads, they're not good enough to be on the first 15 for the first team. So why the hell are they not allowed to compete in a Munster Club Championship?
I've heard that the reasoning for this is that it could be open to abuse, that you could have some clubs, second clubs, maybe deciding to, I wouldn't say deliberately weaken their first team, but whole lads. Yeah, I just think, no, that won't happen. Like, that's unfair. Like, you will take Holy Cross for a second. There's lads in that Holy Cross junior team or intermediate or junior champion team this year that will never be good enough to play for their senior team, their first team. Never. Yeah. So why are you denying them a chance? That the Holy Cross first team might go on and play for a Munster senior club title down the line. But why would you deny their second team a chance to have a bit of glory in their own grade? Like, and I've longed for that second team regulation. I know that thing it's in across the country. You need a national rule change for that. But I'm of the fact that you should allow your county champion in that grade to represent you, right? Whether they're a first team or a second team. And I just think I just don't see a club abusing it, and that your first team staying in the higher grade is too important to weaken it and potentially relegate themselves just to have a second team go well. That doesn't happen. That will not happen.
I was just going to say, especially the way the restructure is in Tipp now, there's too much on the line nowadays for senior teams or even Premier Intermediate teams for them to keep one or two lads away from the first team. There's too much on the line because it's one game between relegation and one game between getting to a county quarter final. So it's absolute nonsense. And I can't believe how a club hasn't brought this motion to Congress for the vote, to be honest, because again, those 30 or 25 lads who say on the Holy Cross or the Killangen team, they're training since January, like the boys in the senior team. And again, as you said, it's denying them a chance of playing a Munster Club Championship. But like, there's one or two of those boys that are good enough to play on the senior team next year. I guarantee they will play for Holy Cross or Killangen next year. Yeah. And then you're saying there's probably 10 or 12 that will never play for the senior team, and vice versa. So it's just, it's an awful bugbear of mine. And for Tipp, what you renamed the intermediate championship, you put. I think
the only way you get around is you name it.
Junior intermediate.
You have Premier Intermediate, you call it Junior Intermediate, but you know as well as I know, Tipp, if you put the word junior in a competition, do the intermediate clubs suddenly feel like they're junior clubs? Maybe I don't know. But changing senior Seamus Reen to Premier Intermediate changed very, very little. Like a lot of it is mental, if you know what I mean.
Well, I remember at the time, especially when the vote was going around with clubs and players and with that, and a lot of players, it was more egotistical at the time because at the time we were senior A, senior at the time, and we went to senior B. Yeah. So like at the time it is, but you get over it, Shane. Jesus Christ.
If everybody got over it.
Oh, like you see Goal and Kilfeacle this year, if they won the intermediate championship, if that was the Premier Intermediate Championship, I guarantee those boys wouldn't give two flutes if they got to compete in a Munster Junior Championship. So look, we're not going to solve it here, but it's a grand discussion, and hopefully maybe a club in the near future might put a motion and just have a discussion around it. And I can't see why it wouldn't be done, but I can't see why a discussion can't be had.
Yeah, absolutely. Saying a Munster club, you were in Clonmel on Saturday for the Munster semi-quarter final. Clonmel Commercials against St. Finbarr. Brilliant game of football. Jeez, in the conditions and everything. Big crowd there. St. Finbarr's won by 3 for a finish. Like I tweeted afterwards that this is a game that's going to haunt Commercials because they had enough possession, enough chances to win that game. I would say, I thought they were overly cautious when there was only a point in it with 10 minutes to go. They had loads of possession. They were kind of looking for the right opening instead of, and a lot of the times they either kicked the ball into the goalie's hands or didn't make the penetrating run. And then St. Finbarr's counter-attacked, won a couple of long kick-outs, turned them into scores that it's definitely one that's going to hurt Clonmel going forward. It's like that was a game they could have won and should have won.
Just before I get into the game, like I've done about 10 games in the sports feed in the last 3 or 4 years, and this is my first one actually doing since they renovated the fence around it, the stand on the far side. Yeah. We were up on the old bank on Scaffolding. Now got absolutely drowned and it was frozen to the absolute BS it was, but it was the best club football game I was ever at, by bar none. The atmosphere was unbelievable. There was just shy of 2,000 people there, and you could have fit another 500 or 600 in, no problem whatsoever. So fair play to Commercials for having the place in such good condition, and fingers crossed Tipp get to play. I think they should play in all their home games in football there next year. Bar it's a big game that they need to get through or something like that. I think that place packed to the rafters with 15 or.
I think maybe when you're in Division 4, I don't mind. I think maybe if you're in 3 or maybe higher, you've got to be ambitious and looking towards Semple. But I definitely think in Division 4, down in the bear pit of Clonmel football, and I'm sure. Look, I think next year, and look, it was ratified last week that Niall Fitzgerald will be in as manager. Like there is going to be a kind of a, and I'm sure you sensed it last weekend, the Philly Ryan aura will still be there into next year, I think, and that's something that they should be looking to build on. And I actually didn't realize, just looking at some of the previews last week, that a lot of the reason that the Clonmel pitch held up and was so good was that Philly insisted work was put into it a couple of years ago to bring it up to standard. And look, we saw after all the rain last weekend how well it held up.
Yeah, and even when I went out to do the interview afterwards, and like from pitch side, it looked to be really cut up. It actually wasn't, and obviously it's a new sand-based surface that they put in. But no, look, hopefully at least play the first home game there next year. I think they should, and obviously there'll probably be something done for Philly for the first home game next year and pack that place out, because it was absolutely brilliant. But back to the game, I suppose Clonmel were 3 points up at half time, and deservedly so. Better team in the first half. Finbars were always going to get a run, and they got a good run in the first quarter, the second half. Now, whatever about wides happened the whole time, but Clonmel dropped 4 balls into the goalkeeper's hand in the second half, 3 in the first quarter of the second half. Yeah. And they're just absolute momentum killers, and they were going for the point and 2 pointers at the time, but that was an absolute killer. But Finbars then got their run, and they went 3 points up, and Clonmel brought it back to a point up with 2 or 3 minutes to go. And it was all just about managing the clock, and Clonmel, instead of maybe slowing things down, they actually went for a score, and it was Coleman Kennedy over the far side, the Newstand side. He gave a hand pass into Mikey Quinlan. It was intercepted. Finbars went up the field then, and they won a sideline. And trying to think who the cornerback was for Clonmel, he tugged Stephen Sherlock off the ball, and the sideline was brought in to a 2-pointer right on the arc where the foul committed, and that's where Stephen Sherlock put a 2-pointer over the bar to put Finbars a point ahead, going into injury time, and then they just. The fresher legs, really, you could really tell that they were a small bit fitter. And I suppose Clonmel, not fitter, but Clonmel having to play the game the week before, the last 5 minutes, Finbars just absolutely ran riot, running directly at him. William Buckley was unbelievable.
Yeah, geez, he's fair pace, isn't he?
And he was actually unbelievable in the first half. He was very quiet in the second half, bar the last 5 or 6 minutes. He took on 4 balls, and he ran right at the Clonmel defence, and 3 points came off him. Eaton Toomey got a point, that he linked up, and Willie Buckley got a point himself. But Shane, considering the standard or considering the conditions, like, we were absolutely drowned. You might see from the camera, but the rain was drizzling down the whole game. The standard of football was unbelievable. It was like an inter-county game, and it was just one of those games. I've done 60, 70 games this year, and sometimes very few games you're walking away saying, Jesus, that was class, and that was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's pity now. Pity they didn't get through, because, like, I think they would have had a home game against Ennis, I think, next weekend if they'd won. And like you'd say, if you can get through your first game in Munster, it just takes off, and pity. But we'll say best of luck, Clonmel. We'll have a Munster Junior semi-final this Saturday against Ballymacalliget. That's in Clonmel on Saturday lunchtime. Just quickly reverting back to the All-Stars, we touched on John McGrath getting hurled of the year. 7 All-Stars. Gary, probably as many as I thought we'd get. I think a lot of the team was the one I thought we'd get in. I thought the one that I thought Andrew Ormond or Jason Ford would get into the forwards. I'm delighted for Andrew, like, to think of what he did himself, and Reese. Like, we thrown him in the same category coming into the team in the 3rd round of the Munster, and more or less the arrival of those two maybe changed Tipp's fortunes in terms of their ability to get possession off restarts. Half of our backs, Robert Doyle, Ronan Maher and Owen Connolly. Brian O'Mara probably bit unfortunate, but were we going to get 4 defenders in an all-star team? Probably not. I would have said Doyle, Maher, and Owen Connolly were locks anyway. But and then, of course, Jake Morris in the attack and John McGrath. So, look, it's just a nice finish up to the year. Of course, Darren McCarthy, young hurler of the year. I suppose I would say Robert Doyle probably a bit unlucky. I would have said if you went through the bare numbers of minutes played, who he marked, blah, 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 Robert Doyle, I thought would have been a hands-down winner. But I think it just shows you that the story of Darren McCarthy this year is probably what swung it in terms of the vote for the inter-county players who were the ultimate deciding factor in this.
Yeah, exactly. And look, again, just Dara, look, he totally deserved it as well. But for me, like, look, I suppose technically the All-Stars are picked on league, Munster, or league, provincial, and All-Ireland. It's not. We all know the league form has absolutely nothing to do with. I would have gone with Robert from the first round of the league to the All-Ireland final. I thought it was at the Galway game he made his debut. I think he
played in every match this year.
He played in every single match.
Came on at half time against Galway
for Mikey Corcoran, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he was taken off at half time against Laois.
Yeah,
every other game he played every minute of.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I would have picked him just on, well, not just on that, but for his pure consistency, considering it was his first year. And for me, he's the exact same type of hurler as Cathal Barrett. And the older he gets, the steelier he'll get as well. And to have a Cathal Barrett replacement there is just, we're fierce lucky to have that. And I think Robert obviously playing forwards for his club as well. He's a bit more risky hurling about him. So I think been having him as a man marker and actually a lovely risky hurler going forward. We're very lucky. But no, back to Reese and I suppose Andy, 2 different type of players that we haven't had. I don't think we've ever had a goalkeeper like Reese Shelley. I think he's 1 in a million, I think, on and off the field as well. He's mad as a brush, he is, but he brought something so different to the puck outs and just his character as well. And I suppose Andy Ormond just being that pure athlete there, centre forward, athleticism of him, picking off his scores. It's what that David Owen Ennis, like that really, that was the coming of Andy Ormond it was. So delighted for him. Yeah, I suppose for me, Brian is probably the one that can really feel hard done by, but you're never going to get 4 on the team. Even if we'd won Munster, I don't think we'd got 4 backs on the team. Jason, again, from the league to Munster to All-Ireland, probably deserved to be in the reckoning, just fell short. But for us to be here, contemplating possibly having 1 or 2 more after having 7, like considering Shane McCallan was actually on the podcast this week with John McGrath, and he was saying after 2019 win All-Ireland, just we'll be back here now for the next 4 or 5 years, whether it's finals or semi-finals, considering we hadn't been there since 2019 to pick up 7 All-Stars, young hurler of the year, like the saying is definitely correct. Tip our back. Absolutely.
We're talking about teams in the year now. I don't know, a lot of people in our listenership, we have done our senior hurling team of the year in the Garage, and I don't know, or Gary, I don't know whether you've seen it yet, but I know you provided 1 submission to us. I'll just go through it here. This is the team based on submissions from a local of journalists and commentators. It was Jason O'Dwyer of Clonalty in goals, Larkin Egan of Lockmore, Castleiney, Cathal Barrett of Holy Cross, and Fintan Purcell of Drummond Inch. Half back line was Barry Heffernan of Nina Rogue, Brian McGrath of Lockmore Castleiney, and Owen Connolly of Lockmore of Cashel King Cormac's. Midfield was Noel McGrath, the Lockmore, and Joe Caesar of Holy Cross Ballycal. Half forward line was Kieran McCormick of Lockmore, Tomas Mossy McGrath of Lockmore, and Jake Morris of Nina. And the full forward line was Seamus Callanan, Drummond Inch, John McGrath, Lockmore Castleiney, and Mikey Heffernan of Nina Rogue. Now, for complete transparency, this was my team of the year that I submitted, so as I said, it wasn't the team I picked, but I think we had about 10 submissions, so it was a nice. So I would have gone. I had the exact same 4: Jason O'Dwyer, Larkin Egan, Cathal Barrett, Brian. I had 6 of the first 7. I would have had Niall O'Mara. He was in my team of the year ahead of.
Yeah, he was close for mine too.
I had the same midfield of Noel McGrath, Joe Caesar, and my half forward line would have been slightly different. I would have had Mikey Nally of Holy Cross, Tomas McGrath of Lockmore, and David Collins of Drummond Inch, and the full forward line of Jake Morris, John McGrath, and Mikey Heffernan. So that was my selection. On a transparency for you, just to Gary, I have it here in front of me. No. I just want people to think, oh, that Brophy's fixed it himself. You went, you and Burke and goals. Wasn't far off, and now good shout. We had the same full back line, Lorcan, Cahill Barrett, and Fintan Purcell, Brian McGrath. You had Mason Cawley in the half back line. Good shout. I thought he was very, very good back end of the championship. Very, very good shout. Noel McGrath. You had Ty Gould instead of Joe Caesar. You had a Holy Cross man. You had
because I tell you, I've been beating Ty's drum there for the last 3 or 4 years, and I just think there's something so different about Ty. He's a big, tall, lanky figure, but he's so strong, so fast. But I had to get Ty in there somewhere.
Yeah, and half forward, you had 4 the same 6 forwards. You had Mikey, Jake. Tomas McGrath, Mikey Heffron, and Jake Morris, John McGrath, and your 2 other forwards were Cormac Fitzpatrick and Liam McGrath. So like, it just shows you like that. The varying things that we had. I had Paul Carroll, I had John O'Shea, James Hayden, Michael Dundon, Noel Dundon, Michael Hevern. So like we had a fair selection of submissions and like lots of different names and stuff. Some guys, but I think it's the team we picked based on those submissions. And look, I'd say if there was a tie, I suppose the sports editor, I kind of went with my gut in terms of. I suppose I went to deciding factor instead of revoting, like, but a lot of them were probably clear cut anyway. Like, so I think there was only 1 or 2 spots where maybe there was a couple of lads were on the same vote. But like, I think that 15, and we'll be doing Premier Intermediate next week and Senior Football the week after. So I think that 15, pretty solid 15 of Team of the Year.
But Shane, it's all about opinions, and like again. You 10 lads there, and if 10 lads can't come together with I suppose an average 15, but like when you sent that email out there 3 or 4 weeks ago, I said, Grant, I'd sit down one of the nights here. I sat down 5 or 6 different nights, and I had to go through match reports and I had to go through my own notes, and I changed the team 7 or 8 times. And I tell you, it's great being asked to do it, but it's some pain in the backside, because you're there leaving lads out who deserve to be in. Like, you could easily pick 30 lads there that deserve to be in the 15. But look, like,
in some ways that I'd say it was about half of them were locks. John McGrath, Noel McGrath, McGrath were locks. Jake Morris was a lock. Like, lads that merely were unanimous selections. There was a couple of tight ones in goals. I think Cahill Barrett was nearly a lock at full back. There wasn't much between you and Burke and Jason O'Dwyer in goals. I just thought, Jesus, some of the saves Jason O'Dwyer pulled off throughout the championship for a team in Clonolty who knocked out in the preliminary quarterfinals, and like that just shows you like the depth of the Tip Championship. Owen Connolly of a Cashel team that got to a county quarterfinal, had a great year. Like Drummond Inch, like Seamus Cannon, what a year he had. Like I suppose we came up against. I would have seen a fair bit of them because with Laura played drum. I thought David Collins had a massive year too. Like, so, just shows you like. I just thought and Mike Harkey probably very unlucky not to have anybody in it. They probably would have had somebody in it, maybe if they got to a semi-final. Just maybe that quarter final, if he came against maybe Jack Hayes and stuff like that, was very, very close as well. So it just showed that it was fun picking that team, but also very, very difficult.
Oh, it's fun when you start at it, but then you're saying, "Oh, Jesus, you're leaving this lad out," and you're there. You don't want to insult anyone, but like for. Like a good point there, Killer One. I had Niall O'Mara. Like, Niall O'Mara for me was probably like if you stop the championship at the quarter, they got to the quarter final. If you stop the championship at the quarter final, he's 100% nailed on. He was unbelievable this year. He's an attacking centre back, wing back. He's scoring from play, scoring frees. He's 31, 32 years of age, and the way he's playing this year, I'd have no doubt he could do a job for Tip. The way his body is holding up, the way he's hurling. But then I put Mason in because he had a really good semi-final and final, and he's back into the year. And same with Mikey as well. Mikey was unbelievable in the final, but then he was unbelievable in the group stages. Do you know? So it's look, you could be here all day saying why you put lad in. And
but like it's like if you have to put a lad in, you have to take somebody out. And and in fairness, between 10 lads, there was a fair consensus, like in terms of. Like a lot of the same names were popping up, so in some ways it was easy, and there'll always be 1 or 2 spots. Like any team of the year, all-star team you're picking, there'll be this lad did this or this lad did that. And I says we do the player ratings and our match reports every game, so that was a helpful guide to see, like Owen Connolly, like who I wouldn't have seen an awful lot up close and personal in club championship, but I was said looking at his scores, God, he was very, very good. Like, so he was neck and neck with me with Niall O'Mara, I would have said just because I'd see Niall O'Mara more giving me the edge, but then more the other reporters would have seen Owen Connolly more, which is why Owen Connolly ended up making the team, like, so, which, and that's the way it should work, like, so.
Oh no, she's 100%. That's why there's no point in asking one or two. That's why you had 10, and they're all spread across all 4 divisions. But like, I suppose it's a lot easier to pick your hurler of the year than it is pick your team of the year. Like for me, John McGrath getting hurler of the year.
I went manager of the year, and people might think, oh, you should give it to him, but Lockmore, we're going to. I and this was my personal selection. It was my Matthew Buckley of Drum and Inch. Was like I would have said, Drum were potentially could have been in a relegation fight at the start of it, and they ended up getting to a county semi-final. I think maybe underperformed a bit against Nina in the semi-final. That was a step on for Drum and Inch this year. Like I would have said, Lockmore would have been kind of as is to retain. Like you weren't going back to back was an achievement in itself, but you kind of didn't really gain an awful lot. Where Drum sort of rose.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
and you could have said Hugh Maloney of Nina Rogue as well, because go for a quarter final to a final. I've said Matthew Buckley in terms of, I would have said looking at that Drum and Inch team and who they were missing this year and still got to a county semi-final. And I would have said they were a team that were underperforming for the talent they had over the last few years.
Oh no, 100%. And like you mentioned, like Emmett gone to Portlaoise, Jamie was out injured. Tony
Patrick was injured.
Yeah, exactly. So like they probably 4 starters that weren't there at all this year. So no good point in that. And that'd be another. Actually, I don't want to open up that conversation.
No.
You're going down another road there, and you'll have to be melting your head there for hours and hours. Yeah. But no good point there about Drum and Nina as well. And like even Killerwan, like I thought Sauce Williams did a great job. Killerwan this year just came up short in the quarter final. And it's a fair point, all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go, a couple of things to wrap up. 2 weeks ago, the Tipp Centre of Excellence announcement came, like, fantastic. It'd be very, very impressive if it comes off. And like I've seen 2 of these announcements so far, and very little has happened. I think something will happen this time. Jesus, provided we don't want to get into a financial recession. And I'd have my worries that we see Donald Trump in America not willing to release the jobs figures for October. It says to me that they're hiding something, that things are not going well. And if things aren't going well in America, they tend to have impacts around the world. And like if things do start hitting financially, it could potentially maybe have a knock-on effect for that. But in terms of a plan and something to go after going forward, it's very, very impressive.
Oh, geez, when I saw the announcement, yourself and Paul and a couple other media putting out the announcement and the images, and it looks top class, and it's something we probably should have done 10, 20 years ago, but it's better late than never. I consider the success we've had underage in the last 5 or 6 years. You can only imagine what we could have in the next 10, 20 once this is on board. But no, look, for a county our size, it's the least we should have. But no, things are looking in a positive direction. I suppose with Coolmore coming involved there this year, and again, I suppose
you got to say fair play to John Magnier and the Magnier family in Coolmore, like to gift that land. Like they can't do anything without the 14 acres, and I suppose the people involved behind the scenes in terms of, I know Michael Lowry TD and Dr. Peter Merchant were heavily referenced in that the launch and in the press releases of, was would be close to John over the years in terms of maybe, I suppose that you have to be careful with these things. You can't strong arm people. You kind of bring them with you. And look, we see what the Magnier family have done with Feathertown Park, like not just the sporting facilities down there. I think there's a health centre coming on stream there in the next few weeks, and like the ability for Tipp to be able to host the night with the champions event on the 13th of December, senior football challenge against Kerry, the senior hurling challenge against Limerick for the Dylan Quirk Foundation. Like having that facility on our doorstep is incredible.
Oh, geez, yeah. Like I was lucky to the Dublin Tipp game. That feels like a long time ago now, back in January or February. Below it, that was my first time down there, and my God, it's just some facility. And I think there's plans to do a small little stand on the main pitch as well as the actual pitch in a couple of years' time as well. So like that's another avenue, because we don't have enough venues below in the south, or even we don't have enough spread across the country or the county.
We desperately need the one in Thurles to come soon. But like you saw last weekend, a North Minor B football final had to be played in UL. And look, there isn't an all-weather pitch in the county outside of Feather. And a lot of teams are not going to drive to Feather to play. Maybe they'll have to in time, but you're not going to drive to Feather to play divisional finals when you can just tip into UL, which is only half an hour in the road for a lot of clubs.
You see what BT Harps have done over in Templemore. We actually were looking up to play a match in it there a good few weeks ago. They got investment for it. It's going to cost them a lot of money fundraising, but they're going to make that money back tenfold between their own clubs paying for it and renting it out. So hopefully the actual does come to Thurles sooner rather than later, or even somewhere in North Tip. There's plenty of land around Nina as well, that maybe someone just took a chance and bought a bit of land. And I don't know. Look, listen, it's easier said than done, but no, on the whole, things are so positive at the moment with Tip. We're doing well on the field, we're doing well off the field, which hasn't been the case for a long time off the field. Everything's pointing in the right direction, and just seen the other day, then I think obviously the convention is on December 8th, I think, is for the new CCO or the new PRO. So I think it's on
the 4th, Sunday the 14th.
14th, yeah. So no, best of luck to Mikey Quinn, Tommy Barrett, and Brian Fogarty. So again, three well capable boys there that are going for the role there. Again, freshen things up again, and look, it's just more positive outlays for Tip as a whole.
Absolutely. And so the next Wednesday is the annual structures meeting, where a lot of competition structures will be finalised. I suppose, I think senior football, there is a proposal going in for commercials. That I think the plan was with the senior grade down to 12 teams, that will be 3 groups of 4 like in Cork, but commercials are looking for 2 groups of 6. Which will be 5 games plus the semi-final, final. That's 7 rounds of games. Currently, the championship takes 6 rounds of football. So I'd say that maybe the county board might be a little reticent and maybe looking after that. But it's worth debating anyway. I suppose the big one for clubs next Wednesday will be the age grades. Looks like we're going to be going back to even ages again. I think the county board wanted to come in for next year, right? Boherlahan have a similar proposal, but they wanted to come in for 2027. Look, I would say it looks like most counties are moving back that direction. I would have said it didn't need to be changed in the first place, but it was. Yeah. Strangely enough, I would have said the grades and Tip are working well as it is anyway. I think I'm surprised at how well the under 19 grade went, considering it was nearly going side by side with adult championship games at a weekend. So, if you move back to under 18, it's a fewer players crossover, should make things slightly easier next year. But I suppose strange is it was only brought in 2021. I think every year there's been a debate on it, and it looks like finally it's going to go back to the way it was. I don't think there's any plans to change it at inter-county level, but for the moment anyway. But looks like we'll be going back to what it was. Okay, under 12 will be go games. It won't be a championship format. First championship will be under 14. I assume maybe they might try and get an under 13 championship going, maybe straight knockout or something to maybe keep the traditions happy in terms of needing that championship edge on things.
Yeah, Shane, same opinion. When it first came in, I was completely against it. I thought things were working absolutely fine. I'll be the same opinion now. It's absolutely fine the way it is. I think, as you said there, the 19s for me was the main one. I thought it's just it's because you're taking away. I suppose it's just a difficult one, because if we're going to change it to 16 and 18 and 14 back, it's going to be different for the inter-county. I think if we're going to change it back, it should be changed as a national structure. I think the 20 has been very good for Tip, obviously, because we won a 20 All-Ireland and everything. I just still feel for a 19 or 20-year-old going into a senior panel, the extra year playing under 21. 21, you're a full-grown man at 21, whereas under 20 you're still developing small bit.
Yeah, I don't foresee under 20 going back to 21 at inter-county championships. I think with the way senior panels are, I think they don't want as many Darren McCarthy's having to double up during the championship and Wednesday and Saturday. The likes of Darren McCarthy and Sam O'Farrell this year, they'll be. I'd say they. How would you say? Could you imagine if that was next year and maybe Oisin, you could have 3 lads playing on Wednesday. So I think 20 is a nice grade. I'd be one of those. What I would say, I'm one of those that the old, of why when it was brought in initially, that once you graduated to senior, you didn't play under 20. And that they've relented on that was, we want to know that it's a development competition, but we all know with inter-county and so for the counties, you want to win an All-Ireland, and if you feel you win an All-Ireland, with like we saw Limerick a few years ago when they lost an under-20 All-Ireland without Cathal O'Neill, who was ruled ineligible because he played senior. You'll always rue the one that got away because of that. What would you say? He had progressed on even though he was still underage, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know 100%. But
you'd be frozen there, Gary. I think Barry, he's got a message from Barry. His battery is gone, so we'll just have to wrap things up. So thanks to Gary for joining us on this week's show. And just before I go, I just want to thank everybody who supported my Tipperary GA Quick Game fundraiser in the Abbey Court a couple of weeks ago. Great night with Dean Cal and Andrew Ormond. Just to say, my Quick Game fundraiser link is still going. The night is on the 6th of December, so it's coming up soon. I've going pretty well in fundraising, so I could still do it a few more bob. Or if you don't want to support me, if you want to give, my charity is the Dylan Quirk Foundation. If any funds raised over the $3,000 will go towards them. Please support as many of the other people taking part of the Quick Game fundraiser. I think there's over 30 names there between inter-county players and local politicians and local celebrities. So it should be a great night on the 6th of December in Templemore in the Our Ladies. And after that, you have a gig with the Rebel Hearts as well. So it should be a cracking night. Good way to start the Christmas period as well. So that is about it for this week's show. But thank Gary Toohey there. And we will be back next time for another edition of Tipp Cast Nov.